Well, hello there. Thank you so much for joining us. This is News Channel Nebraska. My name's Eric McKay. Let's take a look at our top headlines today. Beginning with the ink still drying on President Donald Trump's executive order to dismantle the Department of Education. He signed it at a ceremony at the White House Thursday. Now, entirely shuttering the department requires an act of Congress, but the president has directed the Education Secretary to take steps toward its closure, leaving millions concerned about the potential loss of critical services for classrooms. Laura Aguirre has more.
My administration will take all lawful steps to shut down the department. We're going to shut it down and shut it down as quickly as possible.
President Donald Trump has never minced words about his plan to dismantle the Department of Education. Today, he moved even closer to that goal by signing an executive order to that effect.
We're going to be returning education very simply back to the states where it belongs.
Education Secretary Linda McMahon confirming on Fox News she's completely on board.
That was the president's mandate. This directive to me clearly is to shut down the Department of Education, which we know we'll have to work with Congress, to get that accomplished.
The White House press secretary appeared to clarify between a total department shutdown and services reduction ahead of today's signing.
The president's executive order directed Linda McMahon to greatly minimize the agency. So when it comes to student loans and Pell Grants, those will still be run out of the Department of Education.
She also said funding for the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act and Title I for low-income schools would also not be impacted.
Any critical functions of the department, such as that, will remain.
There's been a wave of recent protests against the potential closing of the department, and some educators' unions feel their voices aren't being heard.
I'm just surprised that the president is not working with the teachers in classrooms throughout the country, as represented by their union, to make things better.
The executive order is expected to spark a litany of legal opposition. I'm Laura Aguirre reporting.
Nebraska Governor Jim Pillen attended the signing ceremony at the White House. He issued a statement Thursday saying the Department of Education, in his opinion, provided mediocre results costing taxpayers billions. He said the executive order is, in his words, a pro-kid, pro-parent, pro-teacher, pro-school position. In other news, power outages still in effect for more than 6,000 customers of Norris Public Power District as of Friday morning. The six-county service area experienced some of the most extensive storm damage the district manager of operations and safety said he's seen in 30 years. The company says linemen continued working through the night and have called in mutual aid from 5 other organizations to help restore power. With the large number of poles that were damaged or toppled, plus the broken lines, Norris says some customers might be without power for multiple days. Anyone who sees a downed line in the meantime should call it in so crews can get it repaired and ensure there's no live electricity.
When the next severe weather event happens, don't get caught in the dark. Power your kitchen, HVAC, and communication systems with a Jackery solar-capable generator. Just click on our YouTube affiliate shopping tab and you're on your way. And Husker fans, the Explorer series is perfect for tailgating.
Meanwhile, Nebraska Public Power District says they're down to the final few hundred customers still without power following Wednesday's blizzard. NPPD said they were down to about 200 powerless customers as of mid-morning Friday, most centered in the town of Craig. They also shared these images showing some of the damage in towns like Oakland and Tacoma. The utility says at the peak of the storm, over 11,000 of their customers were in the dark. Now, the heaviest concentration of outages in Nebraska still Friday was in Omaha Public Power District's coverage area, which still had over 22,000 without power. It's been a wild week of weather in Nebraska, which has impacted one Nebraska activity that's shifting from winter to spring. Jake Bartecki has more.
From sunshine and 80 degrees to a blizzard, that's spring in Nebraska. But these wild swings impact the state's fishing, as one day fish are active and feeding, the next confused by a sharp drop in temperature. Daryl Bauer of Nebraska Game and Parks Fisheries says this is a yearly occurrence.
It doesn't do it any good if you're trying to catch fish. We go through these wild swings every spring where we go from warm to spring snowstorm. And when that happens, yeah, the fishing success is probably going to decline.
Winter is often the hardest season for much of the wildlife throughout the state, but Bauer says spring isn't far behind, especially for fish. And this week is an example of that.
We do see some natural mortality every winter and in early spring. That's just a part of the way it is. And part of that's because of the extreme climate that we have.
For those wanting to scratch the itch and drop a line, Bauer recommends fishing areas in the sun or those consisting of warmer water. Additionally, you may not want to change things up too much from ice fishing.
Try and fish slow, try and fish more vertically. I always tell folks, you got some waxworms left over from ice fishing, don't throw them away. They're a great bait early spring, especially for panfish. And you'll be surprised, you'll hook a few bass, maybe a catfish now and then on them too.
In Lincoln, Jake Bartecki, News Channel, Nebraska.
Valentine is saddling up to host hundreds of visitors for the upcoming Nebraska High School Rodeo Finals. Casey Wannenberg has more on how the small town's making big plans to prepare for the event.
The best high school rodeo athletes from across Nebraska compete each year at the state's rodeo finals. For much of the past 2 decades, the competition has called Hastings home. But this year, a much smaller town is throwing its hat in the ring. Valentine is gearing up to host the finals June 12th through 14th.
Our goal is to try to have one of the best finals Nebraska's seen for a while.
Dwayne Whitty is the president of the Cherry County Ag Society, which has been working to make sure the fairgrounds are rodeo ready.
We've put in some new electrical hookups. We are going to try to get water put into them. We've changed our roping boxes in the arena.
While Valentine hasn't hosted the finals in years, this isn't its first rodeo.
It's super exciting for Valentine because we were here about 27 or 28 years ago.
Jill Joseph Austin, the secretary of the Nebraska High School Rodeo Association, remembers when the finals used to be in Valentine.
It was fun because the cowboys, the kids that came to town, they would cruise Main Street and they would intermingle with the local kids, and then those local kids would come out and watch them compete over the weekend.
A weekend of fun that could also tie down an economic win for Valentine.
We bring over 180 contestants alone, so just our student contestants, and then that brings in mom, dad, siblings, grandpa, grandma.
Hundreds of people heading to the Heart City. In Valentine, Casey Wannenberg, News Channel, Nebraska.
And while sports fans from across the country enjoyed the start of the NCAA Men's College Basketball Tournament Thursday, officials from across Hall County channeled the madness into a fire response simulation meant to test their skills under pressure. Peter Rice has more.
Conditions outside here in Grand Island may still be very wintry, but inside the Emergency Management Center here in Hall County, things are heating up. Just down the hallway, there's 2 different command posts set up, one an incident command post and another an emergency operations center. These 2 are filled with Hall County representatives from the Sheriff's Office, Police, Fire Department, EMS, and more, as the 2 groups work through fictional scenarios in the hopes of honing their skills.
Do we need to call in any additional fire resources?
The simulated event corresponded with the morning March Madness games, and each disaster situation was equated with an event during the game. For example, a foul represented a fire, a missed free throw means a missing person, and every basket scored equals a displaced individual in need of shelter. The simulation quickly required the many groups to coordinate with one another.
As the incident unfolds and gets worse, the incident management team has to manage those accumulating details of the incident, come up with a plan, get the resources, and make sure that we can manage things in a good, effective way.
He added that the organizations try to have regular exercises where they simulate complex incidents, including severe weather events, such as tornadoes, blizzards, floods, or large urban fires.
The last couple of weeks, particularly that Custer County fire complex we saw a few weeks ago, helps us understand the necessity of good wildfire protection in our communities.
Operations will continue throughout most of the day, featuring various scenarios of wildfires popping up across Nebraska. This is in anticipation for the upcoming fire season, and officials say even though there's snow, moisture on the ground at the moment, this can change in an instant as we've seen with several fires popping up in the last several months across Nebraska. In Grand Island, Peter Rice, News Channel Nebraska.
And the University of Nebraska Omaha made history Thursday, playing in the school's first ever NCAA men's basketball tournament game. And a handful of Mav fans who were there spoke with Brandon Truitt about their trip to the East Coast.
The party spilling out into the streets as thousands travel from across the country to root for their home team, including a bus full of students from Omaha, Nebraska.
It took us 20 hours. We took a pit stop, but here we're ready to show up. We're ready to show out. Underdog, you see this?
Omaha playing in March Madness for the first time, and for a lot of these students in red and black, it's their first time in New England.
I would say probably 90% first time East Coast. From living, most of them are in the Midwest, so this was an awesome trip for them to see part of the country and then experience March Madness.
Unfortunately, UNO's first trip to the big dance was a quick one. The Mavericks fell to second-seeded St. John's 83-53. UNO finished the season 22-13 after winning their first ever Summit League championship. You can stay up to date with the very latest by following us online. Head to newschannelnebraska.com. Click on the News tab there. You can also follow us on X. Like us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend. This is News Channel Nebraska.